Hi, I want to make a video on, I guess, a difference between want and need, and maybe another little subject I might add on, tack on there at the end. So the basic idea is the difference between want and need. I may have mentioned this in some previous videos. I'm not sure. I can't quite remember. So I guess the basic idea is, do we want or do we need? And like in many cases, like I've mentioned before, many of these words are contrivances, like the difference between want and need. Do we need to eat? And to a particular circumstance, you need this for a particular circumstance. And I do remember mentioning that in a video I made. And I need this for this. Right now, there's no other circumstance. In a particular circumstance, you can use need. And in many other circumstances, I say want is probably a better circumstance to describe many situations of existence. But we do. And I think that's a better description than anything. It's more vague, but it more describes more accurately what's exactly happening on, um, generally speaking, more accurately what's happening on in existence. We do. We do, we do, we do, we do, we do, to do, to do, to do. Do, do. That's what we're doing. We're doing do, do. Okay? We're doing do, do. Get it? We're doing do, do. Okay? That's exactly what we're doing, and that's all we're doing is do, do. Anyway, beyond that silliness, yes, we're basically doing, and we can want, and we desire, and I think that's another good word. We're desiring, we're doing and desiring. I guess they're all D words. We're doing and desiring. I desire this. I desire to live, therefore I'm going to eat, and we're doing this to live, and I don't necessarily need it or want it, but I need this to live. I need to eat to live, so that's a good circumstance in describing that. I need to eat to live. But then again, you don't need to eat. You need the nutrients to live because you can live just as much off intravenous. Um, you can just have some nutrients pumped into your blood and you can live long enough. Live how long? Then you start getting into the particular circumstances. And these circumstances are obviously reality. You don't necessarily know, but the more you describe and the more you stumble on your words, the more you realize you can't necessarily get to the bottom of it. And generally speaking, it becomes more about, generally speaking, obviously you preface that with many sentences because generally speaking that's the case, and it's about the idea as opposed to a description of a particular circumstance. And I want and I need, and I guess it goes to a bigger question about contrivances and words and language. Again, I mean, it's a basic idea. I mean, you're going to be covering the same subjects over and over again. You're going to mention like three of the same subjects you've mentioned before in one video because they're all connected in a way, because it's philosophy and words and description and all how these things work and determinism and all these things all mean something, and what words are best fitting the best of circumstance and situation. Sort of like want and need and all sorts of words like that. I mean, um, so um, I want this, I need this. I can say I want this. I want a potato. I want a potato. I don't need a potato. I want a potato, and preface it. I want a potato to have a potato. Okay, but you could just say I need a potato to have a potato. So that wouldn't work. So want doesn't work as good, but it describes more accurately. Descriptions of what we know are probably the best described reality. And need, and you need to be a little more concise and precise because it relies more on specific circumstance. I need to eat to live. I need nutrients to live, and you have to be more and more exact with that word. And need and want, I want this to have this. That doesn't describe it. Want can't be used in the same way need is used. I want this to have this. No, you need this to have it. Want, I want this so I can have fun. But you want it, yes, and you don't need to preface it. You could just say I want. To it, you could just say I want, I want. Little I want, like little kids, right? I want, I want, I want, I want, I want. Yes, I want. That's a good description. You don't need to preface anything with I want. You can generally, it just generally scrubs, I want food. But you need food to live. You need nutrients to live. And you have to be more precise when you say something like I need. I want, you don't have to be as precise, and you just have to say I want this. I want it. I want a potato. I need a potato to get the nutrients to live. If you want to be as precise as possible, you obviously go even further than that. The description doesn't mean anything. It's a fact of reality. You need the nutrients to live. But you can probably find a more detailed way of describing that. But generally speaking, I need this to live. You need to preface it with something when you say I need. But then again, you can say I just need this. But generally speaking, to be more precise with the language, you can obviously say I need, and you don't have to say anything after that, but I need is best used when you're probably being more exact with your language. I need this for this. So you have to be a little more precise when you say something like I need. But if you want to say something like I want, you don't have to, it's not as necessary. I want this to do this. It doesn't work that way. It's I need this to do this. I want this so I can do this. I want a skateboard so I can go to the store. I want a skateboard so I can go skating at the skate park. I mean, that you can use that, I suppose. Yeah, you can use it, but I think I need a skateboard to go to the skate park. I mean, I guess it depends on how you want to word your sentences. But I think more precise, to be more precise with the language, generally speaking, overall, I need this to go here. It almost begs how you're saying the question if you're questioning it more as a rhetorical question, a rhetorical statement, or as a more precise statement to get a point across. Being more exact with the statement. So I want this so I can go to the store. I want a potato chip so I can eat. I need a potato chip so I can eat. Um, I suppose in a way you can use them both in those same ways, but I think more precise when you say you need, it requires more than say I want, because need, say, requires describes something more to a particular circumstance, because you need it for a particular circumstance. So it begs more the question of what it needs to a particular circumstance, because you're being more precise when you say I need, because it's necessary and required, as opposed to something that's I want. It doesn't necessarily require, because the meaning and the weight behind want is not as significant as the weight behind need. So I guess it's more about semantics. I mean, going on these two words doesn't mean much, but I need requires more of a description if we're being more honest with the language. And I want, even though you may not be able to describe the language as thoroughly as you want, you need to describe it at least a little more thoroughly than say something I want. But you can both describe them and use them in the same way, but they don't necessarily mean the same thing. So I want requires less. You can do less or you can do more. And you can say I need, but it's best to use the other way. So I want can be described as probably more better to use if you just say I want this. I want this. But you absolutely have no need to just say I want this to do this. It's best to just say I need this to do this, and I need is best described in a particular circumstance, and I want is best described in a singular circumstance where you have no context. But it works in both ways. I want this to do this can work just as well. I want this to do this, to be more precise, but I need by itself doesn't work as well. So I guess I want works in both ways. It just doesn't work as well when you're being as precise, because it doesn't beg the it's not as begging. So putting more emphasis on it by a particular circumstance almost undermines the meaning of the I want, or undermines the meaning of the thing that you're doing. While the need requires a contrived or a particular circumstance more often than not to describe something, because you put more emphasis on, say, something like need than you do, and you need it for a particular reason. So you need it, so you need to describe more of the need, because need is a heavier word. Therefore, you need to rationalize and describe the need you need more than, say, a want. A want is more frivolous, and therefore you want it just because. I want it because I want I don't know, I want something because I'm bored. I want a toy because I'm bored. I mean, I guess it really depends on the semantics. Yeah, I want a toy because I'm bored. See, it can work in either way with I want. It works either way, and it depends on how you word the sentences, and I think it works both ways. But it doesn't require like need requires it. And I think that's the best way. I'm finding ways. I'm contriving something right now as a video, and I think I'm learning along with you when it comes to this kind of semantics thing, to a certain extent. So need doesn't requires a particular contrived circumstance or a particular circumstance to rationalize the heavy emphasis of something like want or need. While want means far less. It's more frivolous. It doesn't mean as much, but you can add something to it and have it just as much meaning to describe more particular as a circumstance. But need requires it and want doesn't require it. And that's the point. And want's heavier, and that's why it requires it. And need it requires it more because it's heavier. It's not as frivolous. It has more of a weight to it. While want has less of a emphasis to it. It's more frivolous, and like I say, you can do it either way. So I guess the less weight it has, the more likely it can balance on two different beams as opposed to just one. and it doesn't, and it's more vague. And when it's more vague, it can fit into 2 different shaped blocks. You can sort of, it's like Play-Doh. You can fit it into any block you want, while the need is more of a solid thing that you can only fit into one single circumstance. But you can say I need food, but usually I need food because this, and it describes the circumstance better, because I need requires more of a heavy statement to rationalize this need that you're using, as opposed to just saying I want. Because usually when a person asks, why do you need food? You have to answer why you need food. When you just say, I want food, it's usually not taken as seriously. And I guess it comes down to this mutual understanding between language and emphasis of points, and it's about emphasis and mutual understanding of ideas and description. And I guess another added topic I wanted to add onto this kind of silly video is if you have some kind of usefulness, a kind of use where you have a particular skill at something, your usefulness, and say your usefulness is more important than the feelings I have towards something that say your usefulness is. So your usefulness is more important than my reaction to your usefulness. And I don't know where this idea came from. I guess it's just about an interaction between psychology and reality, in the function of reality. So you function and you do something, say you're better at me than at doing something productive like fixing wheels on cars, and then that's something better than you, but I get jealous because of that. I'm jealous because you're better at fixing wheels on cars than I am. But that function that you're serving is a productive function, generally speaking, and generally speaking that function that you have serves more of a purpose than me being jealous than that you're better than me. So that feeling means nothing. Our feelings are everything, but that feeling is not as important as the function that you're serving to be useful. Well, our feelings mean everything. You get that, right? Our feelings mean everything, right? But my feeling towards you means less than the function that you serve of the function that you serve that makes me jealous. So my jealousy means something because our feelings mean something, but the logic and the function you're serving to logic and the purpose and the function you're serving, generally speaking, means more because it affects more things. And I guess that goes back to the function of frustration and understanding reality, that you can only put yourself in other people's shoes so much. You keep doing your duty and serving the function of your existence and the function that's serving people, the function of usefulness based on logic, even if it's not helping anyone, if it's basic logic and it's doing it for the best. But generally speaking, the best is because there's more people of feelings on this side than this side. But regardless, even if that's the case, the weight is the value. And if your function is affecting more on this side than it is on this side, you take the side where it's having a greater effect on the value machine, the cogs of value moving. So but almost like contriving it and tying it to a single circumstance, your function is more important than the feelings I have towards your function. And it's usually I'm usually describing it in a negative circumstance, or like jealousy, but your function that's making me jealous is more important than the jealousy that I have towards you, even though it's a feeling, and my feelings mean everything. My feelings mean everything, their feelings mean everything, the sentient experience means everything. But the function, even though if it's predicated upon the value is greater on this side, because it's having more of a positive effect on this side than this side, even if that wasn't the case, if you're serving more of a practical function by, say, killing me, and I don't want to be killed in this particular moment, but it's best to kill me, that function needs to be served more than me wanting to live. So the function of you saying you need to die because this is the best for everyone, but I don't want to die, that the feelings obviously mean everything, but when you put no value behind the feelings, even one person, if you don't put the value of even the one person's feelings, then no one should have those. There should be no value statement that has any meaning whatsoever. So if one person's is to be put at jeopardy, then why not just have all of them be put at jeopardy? Obviously, you don't want that, but why even have someone exist to begin with? That's the point. If one person has to be on that one side of the scale and they have to suffer the consequences so that everyone else can live, you've had one too many victims of existence. You have one too many victims of reality being put at jeopardy, and that's all that needs to be said. Your value means everything, and if you put one victim at jeopardy, it's like you're putting everyone else at jeopardy, because you just say, well, obviously it's you. Your value means on its own it means nothing, and just as well you might be put in the slot machine, and you might be coming out, you might be coming rolling down like the gumball out of the gumball machine. You might be the next one that has to be on the scale, and if your feelings meant something on this side, they should mean something on this side. And that's why I say if one person has to be put at jeopardy, no one should exist. That's one person too many. And you might as well just say, well, there's just going to be someone else on the scale tomorrow. And that's pretty much saying, if my feelings mean something over here, they should mean something over here. And if they don't mean something over here, then they shouldn't mean something over here. And that goes back to the idea that if anyone has to be put at jeopardy, it shouldn't happen to begin with. If there's jeopardy and you have to be the one that has to pull the straw, the short straw, then why have a straw contest to begin with? Why have participants? Why have victims? You shouldn't have victims to begin with. But that function, regardless of the existence of someone else on it, if you're serving a practical function and I have to die, I'm the one being jeopardized, then it's best served as a logical purpose. It's going to be better for everyone. But once you jeopardize one person, you might as well jeopardize all of them, because one person's already too many. But you saved it. I'm not saying that you should jeopardize everyone. I'm just saying that point. You might as well just say it's a failure. Because if it's one person's being put at jeopardy, you're just saying everyone else is just as easily put at jeopardy than the person that's at jeopardy right now, or the single circumstance, or the single value statement that's jeopardy. It's just as meaningless as those, and those are just as meaningful as those, but it's just as those are just as meaningless as this, because you just take another one out of this and put that at jeopardy, another human out of that some meaningful slot to this one, and they're just as useless as the guy that was a victim before them. So therefore it's a failed experiment all over. But it means more about the function more than your feelings towards the function. So the function you serve means more than the feelings you have about a particular function that you or someone else is doing. And that's a basic idea. So I hope I was clear enough. This is more of a junk video than anything, a last minute video. I wanted to make sure and get the idea across, just to even out the videos I did. So anyway, it's a good enough subject, and I think I learned a couple of things in describing certain circumstances, and not necessarily learned things, but became a little more aware of things in describing them. So I think it's a good way of learning different things and learning more about particular subjects and realizing how you can better describe particular subjects. And yeah, I think that's nice and easy and interesting. So thank you, and if I have anything else to add on this subject, I can always add it in another video, so thank you, and until